This program on women in science, technology, and business has been brought to you by Zoho Corporation.
Oh, hello. Welcome to my world. I was just watching something on virtual reality there, VR. And my guest today is Jayaram. She's the co-founder of a company called VOKE, based in Santa Clara, relocated from Washington State to Silicon Valley just for the company.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kamala. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
And this is a Samsung Gear VR headset.
That is right. And this is one of the many headsets in the market. And so what we do is we allow fans to have these virtual reality experiences of some of the premier content like sporting events and concerts. And so really what that means for your viewers or for the regular person is that essentially you and your friends can put on this headset and you can do it worldwide and really have a courtside seat, or you're there in a prime location watching the game in a completely new way, and you're able to get some of the best seats, look around and see just what interests you.
So for example, if I wanted to watch Beyonce's concert, apparently she's coming up at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, not far from where your office is. So hypothetically speaking, if you were part of that Beyonce concert, you would install your cameras, and then I would sign in to whatever you're streaming.
Correct.
And if I had this gear, I could watch it in virtual reality.
That's right. If you think about the experience, just think of Beyonce concert. Let's not get into the technology. So really, one way is to be there at the event, right? And there's no getting away from that. That's always going to be something unique. And then if you can't be there, then your alternative is you watch it, say, on TV, or you watch it on your, you get a stream and you're watching it on your device. So let's put these two on two sides of it and make space in the middle. And really what we've done is we've said there's room for this, there's room for this, but there's a big yawning gap in the middle that can be filled with virtual reality experiences. And so now what you can do is have a completely different and a new experience as if you're there at the event, but really you put this on. And so then think about it, how natural it is. You put this on, and then you're able to then look around, and now you're looking around and seeing just what interests you. So for example, if you like drumming, you might decide to focus more on the drummer. And if you like maybe some of the dancing steps, you would focus more on that. And it's like being, when you actually view it, that's what's happening, right? It's not that everybody in minute 1 is looking at the dancer and say 1.01, you move to another part of it. So it's a very personalized viewing experience. And what we've done is we've created the full platform. And so it's capture to consumer. As you can imagine, there are different parts to it. So really what we offer is the technology, the platform, and the experience.
So break it down. You said you're a platform and you provide an end-to-end experience. What does that mean? Does that mean you have your own cameras and then you have your own way of streaming it to me, the audience?
Correct. And so, we make it a point to say that what we've created is the platform, because the most visible part of it is the camera. But the camera is just a way to capture the content, because today there isn't another way to do it with the kind of resolution and the quality that we want. So we pride ourselves on capturing really high quality a panoramic content.
So is that camera yours? You have your own camera?
Yes, we have our own. However, remember I said we have a platform. And so the beauty of a platform is that really it can scale up, it can ingest from other cameras, you can...
Other 360 cameras?
Yes.
Regular cameras intent. Like these?
It needs to meet certain specs, because that's how we're maintaining, the quality of the platform and what the VOKE platform promises. But then that's the intent. So the intent is to then ingest from a number of these other kinds of cameras. But as you can imagine, there are so many pieces to now be able to take this experience and actually be able to provide that to the end consumer, whether they have this kind of a Samsung Gear headset, or maybe they have, all your viewers...
Cardboard.
might know about the other devices like the cardboard or the Oculus Rift and so on. And we truly believe that these devices, you really cannot be developing for today's devices because these are marching forward constantly.
So you have to think ahead.
You have to think ahead, and you have to have that belief in the ecosystem that those are coming along. There are a lot of smart people working on that. And so let's create something of really high quality, even if that today cannot be supported, because by the time you get your whole process worked out and so on, you're ready then to meet at the point where they are ready for you.
How are you different from augmented reality?
What we do right here, it's a self-contained environment. So for example, you put this on and you are immersed in the stadium or in a concert hall. In augmented reality, you are really superimposing some of your actual environment elements into that. So let me give you a very quick example, very different from
Pokemon
our world.
Go.
That I think now everybody understands with it, and maybe I don't need to give another example.
So Pokemon Go is AR.
Yes, and to give you a very, and that's important, I think entertainment is important. To give you a different example, this is from several years ago. We were working with some engineers at Boeing, and they had a very, very innovative, very smart solution where, for example, if you are troubleshooting or, there's some complex piece of machinery and you need to go and troubleshoot and figure out, hey, what is this particular, piping, or what is this particular circuitry? So what you could do is you could put on this headset, and there's a way to then, on the real world, superimpose some of the schematics and directions so that it is very easy then, and you're not saying, hey, wait a minute, where is this pipe? What do I need to do? So as you can imagine, there are a lot of very practical applications.
For AR?
Yes, for that too. I mean, VR and AR.
Okay. So you have raised how much money? You just recently announced that you raised money.
Yes, we raised a little over 12 million in our Series A.
And it's a very interesting conglomeration of investors.
Yes, yes. We're very proud and very grateful for the group that has come together, for their belief in the group, in the technology, in the potential. And so it was led by Intel Capital. And then we also have, some very good partners. We have A&E, and they're the A&E networks. So they bring kind of the entertainment and that part of it, amongst many other properties that they have. And then we also have several others that came together.
Sacramento Kings.
Yes. Yes.
Vivek Ranadeve of TIPCO.
Yes.
So he's also invested.
So through a group of theirs. Yes.
Through a group of theirs.
Yes.
Okay.
Not as an individual investor.
Okay. So what VOKE is doing is bring sports event and as well as musical or show concerts. And what was interesting when I was reading through your portfolio is that you have Mark Antony as one of your... Is he a board member?
He was a board member, and now with our new raise and so on, that position has changed. It's been fascinating to have him, and very, very grateful for, his participation. We met with him actually almost maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And what was so heartening to us was his generosity and the passion. And he looked at it and he told us, he said, this is the future. I see it so clearly. And he made some amazing introductions to us. My husband actually met with Carlos Slim Jr. and some of the others. And so people
Carlos Slim Jr. of Mexico?
Yes, yes. So people that, as a regular person, you just see their pictures in the newspaper or in a magazine, and then, my husband comes back from a trip, and there's a picture of him with, this celebrity status. And what was wonderful for us is that a person of that caliber, Mark Antony, the fact that he saw a potential in our technology, and he felt that he could then interact with his fans, or that there was a value in bringing his creative energy and creating something new with our technology.
So yours is a very interesting story because you and your husband founded the first VR lab in Washington State.
Yes.
University.
Exactly. WSU, Washington State University.
Okay.
Go Cougs, for anybody watching us from
Okay. You didn't hear that. So this was in the 90s.
Yes.
The first version of VR.
Exactly.
Okay, so then you got your feet wet there.
Yes.
And you founded a company.
Correct. And so, you know, it was interesting because we joined as faculty members, and you know, some people who are not in academia sometimes wonder, you know, they say you go to teach, and they say, oh, that's so far from this world of an entrepreneur. But actually, if you think about it, it's not. And I'll tell you why. Because as faculty members, you are also expected to have a very vibrant research program. And so for the research program, you have to go and solicit funds. You have to write proposals. You have to go meet people, whether it's corporate folks or government agencies like NSF and so on. And we were very successful in raising funds from, you know, both sides. And usually there's that kind of a dichotomy. There's the government versus the private. So, you know, you kind of come up with interesting problems. You have to fund it yourself. There's nobody really there to fund it for you other than maybe the first year or two when you start out. And then you have to recruit your students. And so in a way, it's an excellent kind of a foundation that you get from that if you are open to this possibility of continuing.
So it's very rare for a husband and wife to, you know, be in the same space. So because you founded the company together. How did your interest in math and science start? You grew up in India.
I did. I grew up in India in a beautiful town called Durgapur in Bengal. That's one of the states. And it was very interesting because growing up, my mother was actually a physics professor in the engineering college there.
And your dad?
My father was actually a financial advisor of the steel plant there.
The city is known for its, or the
Yes.
town is known for its steel plant.
For the
So
steel
this is the opposite. Usually, you know, if you're thinking of the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
very few women were there as engineers.
Yes,
It's
yes.
usually the man, you know.
Correct.
The conventional thing.
Yes,
You know, so your
yes.
father was in the finance
Yes.
department and your mom was an engineer.
Yes, she was an engineer. She taught in the physics department. It just so happened that was what she did. But she, a fascinating story, which, you know, I took it for granted growing up. It's only much later that I realized that she had done so many amazing things. And I think that's very typical of most children, right? You see the parent figure as mom or dad, and you know, what they do for a career and so on is kind of secondary. And so she came to University of Washington in Seattle.
So both of you have that connection.
In 55. So she came in 55 to do her degree, her master's in electrical engineering. And so very interestingly, she was the one that actually, you know, kind of taught us. I mean, we were pretty, you know, kind of did our things ourselves, but whenever you had questions and so on, we didn't go to dad, we went to mom because she was the one with the math and the physics and all of that.
Oh, this is unusual. So she was the one who instilled a desire to kind of she kindled this curiosity for math and science.
Yes, and you know, if you think about finance and so on, that also comes from the math world, so I would say both of them, but for sure, now I realize, you know, a lot of these things are not so overt, but I do understand now that definitely I was picking up a lot of cues from my mother, and I saw that you could have a very vibrant career and also have a, you know, a whole family and enjoy those aspects of it. And I now realize that she, without explicitly telling me, showed me a delightful way to have both.
But you also lost your father very young.
Yes. Yes.
So your mom single-handedly, she was a single parent.
Yes. So,
Okay.
you know, my father died just massive heart attack, just out of the blue when I was 12. And so it's amazing how much I remember of him and how much he's part of my childhood, even though when I think about it, it's just till I was 12. And my mother then continued. She was working at the college there, and she continued. And, you know, what I remember the most about those days, Kamla, was the fortitude and just the, you know, my mother just picked herself up and just said, you know, we just need to move on. And, you know, we definitely missed our father a lot. And, you know, in India in those days, I mean, she never remarried. So it was she just said, I need to bring up my children, let's go about doing it. And so that sense of accepting what you cannot change, and till she died again, about 10, 15 years ago, just the joy of life that she always had. And I think people who go through a lot of these kinds of crucible events and so on, I think you could react one of two ways. But I think what she showed me was there is tremendous loss in life, but there is tremendous joy, and it's a choice. So you have to go and choose and keep moving forward.
So she not only taught you math and science, but it turns out she taught you how to cook curries and make American pies. So she was a good cook?
She was an excellent cook.
Are you
really.
a good cook?
I think I am, actually.
Okay.
I have a very good reputation in the neighborhood, and I love to cook, I love to feed people. I think, when I think about it, that's my zen, really. I do it with a sense of joy, because to me it's not a chore to be done. I mean, of course, there are days when I'm tired, and I'm not saying I'm perfect in that sense or anything. It's just that as a fundamental kind of an activity, I take pleasure, actually, in cooking and feeding.
And so she taught you how to make American pie?
She did, because, if you think about the 60s, when I was growing up, there weren't that many people who had gone to USA. So she had come back with these beautiful magazines. There were maybe 5 or 6, very pristine. They were kept there. And they had these lovely pictures. And if you think about it, it's not like today where there's a Pizza Hut in India in every street corner. So it was amazing. It was something very unique. And then when there were some really special guests who came home, then my mom would make this, there were 2 I remember. One is a pineapple upside down cake. And then the other one was a chocolate pudding with, there would be peanuts and so on that she would sprinkle on it. So yes, I mean, there would be times where she's teaching me. I'm not even kidding. I mean, it sounds like I'm making it up, but I distinctly remember her teaching me, little aspects of theory of relativity, right? We had that in the syllabus. If you take a class 11, 12, high school physics class, so theory of relativity, and then while she's telling me something about it, I mean, this pie is coming out or whatever. So it was all, part of.
So your kitchen was where it was the lab for your
part
mother.
of it, I think
the
so.
Physics lab.
Yes.
So then you went on to study at IIT,
Yes.
the Indian Institute of Technology in the state of Bengal.
Yes.
And I guess we're one of the few women to be part of that school.
Correct. And, my undergraduate degree and actually my master's and PhD are all in mechanical engineering. And so when I joined, I was... and, in those days, no one really, I don't think anybody kept these records or something. It's just whatever your professors told you. So I was told that I was the first woman student to be directly admitted to the mechanical engineering program. So, it's a highly competitive process. And to give, people a perspective, it's as if there was like one, pick whatever. I'm in Stanford land, so I will say like, Stanford or MIT or whatever, Berkeley, doesn't matter. Whatever be one pristine university that is universally considered the topmost, and there's, say, 5 of those in the country, and there is one exam you write. So I was the first woman to be admitted to the mechanical engineering program. It so happened that I had another girl who had transferred from another department. So graduating, there was one person senior to me, so it doesn't matter. I'm one of the first women in the mechanical engineering program. And interestingly, the dorms, there were maybe 12, 14, men's dorms. We didn't have co-ed dorms and so on. So we had 12, 14 men's dorms, each with about 300 rooms. And then the women's dorm was essentially one dorm, and it just had like 100 rooms. And I've told that now there are several more, and there are many more women in the
Was
program.
the women's dorm very far off from the men's dorm?
Kind of.
Yeah, yeah. I went to one of the IITs and I was taken aback because I went to a school where, you know, all the dorms were together.
Yes.
This is in India.
Yes.
So you studied there and then you came to Virginia Tech.
Yes.
And your PhD thesis was on something very interesting, jet inlets?
You know, that was my master's.
Okay.
Yes. And so it was kind of on hypersonic inlets and so on. And then my...
Why did you choose that subject?
You know, I think when you finish your undergraduate and you're looking, you know, firstly there is, you know, different professors have different, you know, funding and also the projects that are working on. And probably now, I never thought so much about it. Maybe it was like, why not? So, so I did that. And so in that sense also...
This is supersonic jets?
Yes, yes.
And how do they behave differently from other jets, supersonic jets?
You know, it's just all the flow characteristics and so on are very different. And so mine was more, you know, you have the compressible fluid flow and aspects such as that. So mine was to do some numerical modeling and then to go ahead and do some simulations based on that. And it was so long ago now, but if I remember right, it was funded by one of the NASAs and so on. And for my PhD, it was very exciting because what I did was we worked in a consortium. My advisor, Professor Mickelbust, who is actually one of my role models, he, you know, we had a consortium with a lot of the large aircraft companies, and I worked on studying what are called B-spline surfaces. So it's a special way that you characterize and create these CAD models, the computer-aided design models, and from that, extracting dimensions such as what is the wing span, what is the wing sweep, what is the fuselage radius. So it's kind of a reverse problem of what people usually solve. And so, yeah, had an exciting time doing my PhD also.
So you got involved in aircrafts?
Yes. Yes.
So are you able to identify airplanes?
Not so much anymore. I think, you know, going through rest of life's journey now, but I'm sure at that time I could.
You could, okay. And then you ended up here on the West Coast and going to Washington and teaching there. What was it like to be a teacher as well as somebody who had a company on the side? You know, did you feel the stresses and strains, or was it different? Because you're so methodical, even the way you're explaining. So I'm wondering, you know, what was it that you brought to your company?
Right. I think, you know, it kind of grew organically, really. We didn't start out saying, hey, in year number 4 or 5 of being in the university.
Why did you start the company?
You know, we were doing some very exciting work, and we had a few companies that wanted us to create a product or something, and the university...
In the CAD...
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And then the university is not equipped for that. That's not the charter of the university. And most universities are very, you know, very open-minded about it. They encourage you to start your own company. And so that's not VOKE. It was a different company. And so we ended up doing that. And so if I think about the interfaces and so on, I think if I think back now and reflect as you ask me, I think the one thing that we took from the academic world to our company is to be completely fearless.
Really?
Yes. And what I mean by that is in the academic environment, you can experiment, you can come up, you know, you can decide to tackle a completely new problem, right? Because you have your day job of your teaching and all of that, and then you have these research projects. And so we definitely, you know, we started the VR lab at the university. And so you just felt that this is an interesting problem. Sure, let's roll up our sleeves and let's try to solve this. And if there's anybody that can solve it, I'm sure we can too. And so that's kind of one thing that we took over to the company. And if I look at what was the benefit from that to my students and to my classroom, I think I could speak with authenticity and with conviction about you know, just the engineering problems out there. It was not just something I'd read in a case study, right? So, for example, when we were doing CAD translations and so on, I could come back and say, guys, we worked on, and you know, whatever we could reveal. So we'd say, we worked on this model from, say, Boeing, and you won't believe it, it's got 1,000 sub-assemblies, of which 10 are coming from a CAD System Pro engineer, another is coming from SolidWorks. So they listen wide-eyed because you have been through that, and you're not just saying this. You could be working on a model which could have 1,000
So you took
parts.
your practical experience of running this company to the classroom setting and shared with them
Very much
what it
so.
is that you did.
Very much so.
What was it like when you started the company? Did you form a LLC or an Inc? What kind of a
It
company?
was an LLC,
LLC.
that company,
Okay.
not VOKE, but
So
yeah.
did you and your husband sit together and say, okay, we have to form, how do we, do you
Yeah.
remember those days?
You know, interestingly, it's so funny when you ask that because I don't. And I think what happens is everyone's so busy, and so you have your class, you need to form
So it
this
was
company.
a checklist, it was a requirement, you just had to do it, you didn't think about it?
We didn't think so much about it. And then, you know, the kids are there, dinner has to be made. Hey, we need to form an LLC. Yeah, okay, sure, let's go ahead, let's do it. Find a lawyer. And then before you know it, it's done.
How do you and your husband work together? How do you resolve your issues?
You know, I've known him since I was 18, actually, in college. And so...
But that doesn't mean that there are...
you know, and the way I was brought up, like we don't talk too much about family and so on in a public forum, but I am very, very grateful to him for all his, you know, how much he has supported me and been with me every step of the way.
But when you're running
this
a
journey.
company,
yes,
you may have a different perspective, he may have a different... That's what I was looking at.
Sure.
Because...
And you know, that part of it, we're very clear about that. We're both co-founders, but he is the CEO. And
Okay.
I'm the COO.
Okay.
And so ultimately, he makes that decision whenever there is, because he's the CEO, and there's no conflict on that.
Got you. So
Yes.
that is very clear.
Very clear.
Okay.
Yes.
If you were to look back and, you know, go back to, say, a 15-year-old,
Yes.
you know, would you do engineering or would you do something else?
I would do engineering.
Really?
I'm so happy with my career choice and where I am today.
You have
and the
no
choices.
second thoughts about it?
I don't.
Okay. And you have kids?
I do.
Are any of them pursuing engineering?
Both are computer science majors, and so our daughter graduated from MIT and she works at Microsoft, and our son is what they call a rising senior, so he will be a senior at Harvard this year.
So both of them have followed on your, you know, the footsteps of the parents?
Yes.
So how did you teach your children?
You know, we have had a very, again, kind of a very free format, and something when I think back, we always had family visiting us, say my mother or Jay's mother, brothers, sisters, so like the kids' aunts. And so I think they just picked up on a natural way of interacting, learning. And so I think there was never, you know, and we both are very lenient parents, actually. So.
There's no punishing the kids.
No punishing. We you know, that's how we were brought up, and I think we both are the youngest in our, you know, of the siblings. So I think we were always pampered, and that's how we raised our kids.
Okay. My final question, and we only have 30 seconds. How do you handle failure?
Very interesting question. And I think when you think about failure, when you're going through it, it's very painful. But when you come out of it, it's almost like a crucible experience. And so you just feel stronger for it. And you realize that you cannot go through life without failure. And so you have to accept it, and you have to bounce back. You have to pick yourself up and just tell yourself, because it is the truth, you're a better person for it.
Uma, thank you so much for stopping by and talking about virtual reality and your mother and working with your husband.
Thank you, Kamala. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. And thank you for watching. In case you missed any of our shows, you can catch them on our YouTube channel. We'll be back again with another show. Until then, goodbye.
This program on women in science, technology, and business has been brought to you by Zoho Corporation.